to the For Fun of Knit podcast. My name is Linda and I'm normally coming to you from just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia, but now for the next couple months I'm coming to you from the south of Spain. It does not look like beautiful warm sunny weather, and it's not. We have had about 4 days of straight cloudy, windy, intermittent weather. But I digress. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. I hope you're going to enjoy the next few minutes with me. If you're a new viewer, thank you very much for giving my YouTube channel a shot. If you are returning, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm loving all your comments so much and really feeling like we've got a community and we've got friends here on my channel, as well as the other channels that we share in common. Because I know a lot of the folks that view my vlog also view a lot of the vlogs that I also follow. So that was kind of a tongue twister. But anyway, this is a predominantly knitting podcast, but I hope to expand into other fiber creations. And no social commentary, no politics. This is all about for the fun of knitting, for the joy that it brings us, for the calm, the sanity, the creativity, all of those wonderful things. And it's because of that that I do this podcast, because those are the things that knitting brings to me. So I think we have that in common as well. Anyway, I have a little bit of an agenda today. Obviously we're gonna do a little bit of chatter because I always start at the chatter at the front, and I'll try and put a timestamp as to when the chatter will end and the knitting will begin. Then I'm going to go, this is part 2 of the January kickoff. Part 2, I'm going to go over some of my knitting goals for a little bit more specificity in knitting goals for 2022. Then we're going to cover off the general stuff that we always cover off in podcasts, like finished objects and works in progress, what's new on my needles, maybe some acquisitions I might have purchased, something locally. Love to share that with you. And then really about what's next. So stay tuned. Actually, don't stay tuned. You are already tuned. It's not like there's commercials. There are no commercials, no ads. I don't make any money off this channel. I have no intentions of, I'm not a business, small business. I don't make project bags for sale or dye yarn. So again, we're all here because we just really enjoy knitting. So, in terms of, okay, so if you're new, I'm in southern Spain at the moment. My husband and I come here almost every year. Haven't been able to because of COVID. I recently retired, and so now we are actually looking for a place to actually buy. That has been challenging. And I say that anytime you make a property purchase, first of all, we're very, very fortunate that we're able to do this. What we are looking for is not anything extravagant, just a pied-à-terre, a little getaway, a vacation home, condo style, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. So again, nothing out of this world. But it is still a big, big life event. It's huge. And it's a good thing I went naturally gray early, because if I hadn't, I would be this color just because of the last, I don't know, year, I guess, of talking about this and figuring out how it would work, and you know, what is it going to be like to own a property so far away. It takes, during COVID, it takes about 20 to 22 hours to get here. When in Spain, drink Rioja. So it takes about 20 hours to get here. Normally it doesn't take that long. Normally it takes about 13 hours to get here, but all the flights are different. Everything's changed. So it's not like buying, we live on the west coast of Canada, so it's not like buying in Palm Springs where 2.5 hours you can be down there. No. So if anything goes wrong or whatnot, yeah, it's a little bit more effort involved. And then there's the unknowns of currency risk and, you know, what's really selling, what's going to happen at the markets. I mean, all these things come into play, and you know, we're not buying a property for investment. We're not renting this out. This is just our getaway. And yeah, it's a big decision, and there's a lot of moving parts. So I won't bore you with all the details unless you're interested. Please DM me if you're interested. But suffice it to say that I'm glad I have knitting, and I'm glad I have red wine. So on that note, that's part of the chatter, as well as our, you know, traveling during COVID. Again, don't know if I told you this the last time, but our flight has changed yet again. Yeah, going home. We have to go home 3 days later now. So we've had to rearrange the rental car. We've had to find 3 days worth of extra accommodation. It's all worked out. It's all been, it was just a blip, honestly. And these are all first world problems. So please don't, I'm just sharing what we're going through at the moment. But traveling during COVID is challenging. I already expressed to you the getting here, how challenging that was. Doesn't look like it's going to be any easier getting back, because they canceled our flight, which was a beautiful flight. It was going to be 14 hours door to door. Bonus. It was going to be Malaga to Heathrow. Oh, pardon me. It was Malaga to Lisbon, Lisbon to Heathrow, Heathrow, Vancouver, and they changed all that, and then it was going to take us 28 hours. And they were going to route us through either Munich or Montreal. And then there were like extra 5-hour layovers. And we're like, really? Like, really? What makes you? And I love the little caption at the bottom. If this is okay with you, just hit the accept button. Well, no. Who wants to travel an additional 8 hours if they don't have to? So we've rescheduled, and honestly, my husband Patrick is the world's greatest travel agent. If I could turn him into a company, he would make oodles and oodles of money. He's so good at it. So yeah, I get the benefit of all of that. But yeah, so traveling through COVID, you just got to be super patient, super flexible. Make sure your leave times and your return times, your departure and arrival times are very flexible. Yeah, that you're willing to stay a little bit. I've got a dog. Obviously, Duke is in a kennel, so make sure that, you know, all your kennels and everything is flexible, because it is just a bunch of moving parts, like I said before. But aside from that, so that's all the but aside from that, I talked last time about my word for 2022, which is move. And part of that is because of physical movement. And this is about spiritual movement, mental health movement, physical health movement, and just everything from skill movement, knowledge, just learning, just moving myself forward and growing, continuing to grow. And I have to say, in the last 2 years since I retired, I felt like I kind of deflated a bit, because there were no demands from work. There was nothing propelling me to take additional courses or learn anything. So again, thank goodness for knitting, because knitting has allowed me to continue to grow my skill of being able to learn. Believe it or not, that is a thing. Just the ability to learn is hugely important. It is. But that also said, movement for me, a big part of that was Adrian's Yoga with Adrian. And if any of you watch Stitching the High Notes with Joanna, there's a few other podcasters as well that have mentioned Yoga with Adrian. Find What Feels Good is her actual business. I have been a subscriber and a participant for about 3 years now, I think. And every January I look forward to it, because she does a 30-day totally free yoga practice, which really gets you into yoga if you've never tried it before. You can probably hear the wind blowing, and the glass partitions here on the deck are vibrating. So I do apologize if there's all this background noise. I can't get away from it. So anyway, it is what it is. But anyway, Yoga with Adrienne is wonderful. She only does, I think the longest practice is 28 minutes, but some of them are only 12, 15, 20. So she keeps it in very, bite-sized chunks. She moves your entire body. She moves your mind. She moves your spirit. I highly recommend you check her out. And it's Yoga with Adrienne, and her channel is Find What Feels Good, or her brand is Find What Feels Good. She doesn't push. Nope. It's about getting everyone to participate and really starting to move and really relearn about your whole body, mind, heart connection, and it's just wonderful. So that is really what I've been doing around move. The other thing for me around move is reading. And I'm sort of doing two things at the same time. Why is this wet? I'm doing two things. I'm reading What to Eat When. And I love health and nutrition books. How many of us read all these books but don't necessarily put things into practice? I could be one of them. That is one of the things I want to change this year. I have read some fabulous books, and I'm sort of a hot, cold, on again, off again health nick. But this is really good, and I don't know, I wish I could find out, and if you're watching, please, message me. You mentioned about intermittent fasting when I was talking about health a couple episodes ago, and I cannot find the comment. I have looked. I cannot, and I'm sorry. So I'd love to give a shout out to you because you reminded me about intermittent fasting, and so I looked it up on YouTube, and oh my God, just a plethora of information. And I thought I would start at the basics, and it's What to Eat When. And I am on page, this is by Michael Rosian, MD, and Michael Krupin. I'll put that there. These are the gentlemen. I hope that's not backwards. I don't know if that's backwards, but I'll put it in the notes below. I am on page 81, and there's already some very relevant takeaways. They've tried to make this, again, just like Yoga with Adrienne, step by step, little changes at a time, nothing major. This is not a diet. This is not a diet. It is just a different way of looking at how you fuel your body and when you fuel your body. And so they're not advocating giving up sugar and giving up, your coffee or giving up your red wine. Every professional in the health industry will say sugar's not good for you. Hands down. I think we all know that. Sugar, refined sugar, is not good for us. But they're not saying don't ever have any. That's not what they're saying. They're just saying, you know what, you might want to look about when and what time of the day you're putting all the calories into your body, and you might need to shift your thinking from traditional North American, eat dinner or eat breakfast or skip breakfast, have a lunch that's fast food, and then have a big dinner and make up for all your calories. What they're advocating is a bit of a change to that. And so it's a very good book, What to Eat When, and that's part of my whole health move, but also my learning move, and really just paying more attention to, what's good for me. So that's kind of the things I've been doing around the word move. Notice I can sort of I can sort of massage it to pretty much anything to fit what I want for my goals in 2022, but it's working for me now, so what can I tell you? So what else? Golf is a huge thing that we're doing, and that's always been part of my life. It was part of my life before I met my husband, and it's something that we share, and golf is a very it's unfortunate that it's not accessible to more people. I always thought that if I ever won the lottery, I'd buy a golf course and I'd make the green fee, you know, your cost to play, like $20 a person, and kids go for free, because it is such a great sport that you can do for a lifetime. A lifetime. My mom's 83 and still golfing. So what can I tell you? Every time we're on the golf course, we walk 6 miles, pulling or pushing our golf carts, and we're swinging. I'm not going to tell you how many times I have to swing. A lot more than my husband, let's put it that way. I'm not a great golfer, but it is good, regular. I think there's a lot of science behind the power of walking, and golf just naturally, it's a sport that does that for you. And I love walking. It's one of my things that I like to do. I used to love to run. My body doesn't love to run anymore, but walking is certainly something that is still a big part of what I do. And I thank my dog Duke for that. He gets me out 3 to 4 times a day to do that. But yeah, so that was kind of the chatter. Did I want to say anything else? Nope, that was it about the chatter for the time being. And so why don't we move right into my knitting goals. So this is a continuation from last video. So I do have a make 9 sort of list, because it's not really a make 9. It's 9 focuses that I want for the year. So my focuses are, and some of these are carryovers from last year, and some of them are brand new. So carryover would be finish my languishing whips. So last year I did say finish what you start. And I have to say I was pretty good. I was pretty good at finishing what I started. What I was not great at was finishing my languishing whips. So this year, it's not finish what you start, it's finish languishing whips. That's number 1. Number 2, I want to knit 24 pairs of socks. 2 pairs of socks per month. Why? 1, I love knitting socks. Love knitting socks. Always want to have a pair of socks, either in the car, in my purse, or wherever I am going to visit mom, knitting socks. 2, because the yarn, I'm just learning about this actually, I always use a merino blend, a merino nylon blend for my socks. And not all merino nylon blends are the same. I knit a beautiful pair of socks which shall remain nameless because I really love them and I love the yarn. But after about 8 wears, the heel already wore out. And that's because I'm pretty rough. My heels are nice and smooth, thank you. I do home petties, my own little pedicures, so it's not that, but I'm really rough in shoving my feet in shoes, and you know, I do a lot of walking, and I've been using my merino socks to go for walks. And I'm thinking I either need to use a more sturdy sock yarn, or I have to have a lot more socks. So I'm opting for a lot more socks. So 24 socks. So that's goal number 2. Goal number 3 is gift knitting ahead of time. I am going to, after I edit this video, one of my projects that I've assigned myself is to get my online calendar up and just do a pre-planning for all the major events in the year. And gift knitting is one of those. So it always seems to me that, you know, I know a birthday's coming up and I'm just like knitting furiously at the last minute. And then it doesn't become zen, then it kind of becomes work. When I'm knitting for myself, there's no timeline, so it doesn't matter. But when I'm knitting for someone else, there's a timeline. So I do want to knit for someone else, so I have to figure out how to do that better, and I think that has to do with more planning. Goal number 4 is planning for event knitting. So this is not gift knitting, this is knitting for Linda. But for example, Stephen West's Mystery Cow, hang on, my sock just fell off. It's like the Stephen West Mystery Cow. That is every October. And I don't know how many years it's been going on. I wish I'd known about it a lot sooner. But I would like to participate again the month of October and the first week of November in trying to kill myself knitting another Stephen West design, because I find them colorful, mentally, just energizing. It's fun to be part of such a big event. It's wonderful to see all the different permutations and combinations that people come up with for the same pattern. The whole mystery part is fun for me. And I consider them works of art. Will they be wearable? Not necessarily, but they are works of art. So I love that. And I want to clear my schedule so that October, first week of November, that's what I'm knitting on, aside from a few pairs of socks. Then there's Advent knitting, Christmas. This year, I was a little bit, if anybody watched my Vlogmas, you knew I was a little bit, scatterbrained about my knitting. And I have these Advent calendars, and I would really like to have a more hygge approach to Advent knitting. So actually having a project in mind, really enjoying the yarn every single day and how it then builds into the Advent project. And there's 2 Advents in December for me. There's, obviously the Advent, which is the 4 Sundays before Christmas, but then there's also the 12 days of Christmas, which starts on December 25th. Then there's the Christmas Eve cast on and the New Year's cast on. So that whole month of December, first week of January, I want to clear my plate. So now we're talking a big chunk of the fall is taken up with event knitting. And I'm sure there's something I'd like to participate in the spring. I just haven't figured that out yet. So I just want to make sure that, so that's goal number 4, is just to plan for those knitting events and be really brutally realistic with myself about whether or not I should participate in those. So there you go, that's that. 5 out of my make 9, it's more like my how to make 9, is knitting a wearable wardrobe, and I'll get back to that. In the last video I talked about, I'm sorry, it is like, it's almost a hurricane. It must be, no, I bet you this is a squall. This is a squall. We're right on the ocean. So I want to make more wearable garments, and I talked about that in my previous video, so I'm going to skip ahead and we'll come back to number 5 in a couple minutes. 6, I want to knit from my stash. That's a carryover of last year. I have a ridiculous amount of yarn. I love every piece of my ridiculous amount of yarn, and I want to knit my yarn because I did fall in love with my yarn, so I darn well should knit something with it. Doesn't mean I won't buy more, but I do want to knit from my stash more than I did last year. I think last year I was still very much in the acquiring mode. I don't know, COVID. Let's blame COVID. So that's number 5. Or pardon me, number 6 was knit from stash. Number 7, also a carryover from last year, is learn new techniques. So this is all about my value around learning. So I said last year I wanted to learn how to crochet. I did, yay. I wanted to learn some new techniques, and I dabbled a little bit in doubled knitting. I never learned intarsia. I wanted to learn how to steek, never steeked anything. So this year, I'm gonna steek something, and I will tell you when we go back to number 5 what I think I'm gonna steek. 8 is I want to knit for others. I want to knit to give to others, and this is not my gift knitting, this is charity knitting. And it just means giveaway knits. And part of that is actually knitting new things to then give away, but the other part is I'm going to go through everything that I've knit so far, and if I'm not 100% in love with it, and if it is not a garment that is going to complement my, aspirational wardrobe, I'm going to give it away. Because there's no point. Someone should get great use out of a garment. If it's a beautiful garment, but just not my shtick, I think, yeah, why not? I should give it away. So I am going to, and I failed miserably last year. I gave myself an F. Yeah, I failed miserably last year. So, gonna do that. And 9, the last thing, and very importantly, that I want to do differently this year than I've done in previous years. And for those of you that are still working and have young kids and life is just you know, one moment to the next, I know when I was in my 30s, time didn't seem to go that quickly, you know, and certainly in my 40s as my career really took off and I got more and more senior roles, my life was pretty much consumed by my career and the people around me, and all the things that we had to do through that time seemed, it didn't go too quickly. As I'm retired, and I'm not old by any stretch of the imagination, but honestly, as every year passes, whoosh, time is just freaking flying by. I'm having a hard time catching my breath. So, this is why Yoga with Adrienne is so good. My my ninth intention for the year, that's a good way of putting it, my ninth intention for the year is to enjoy every stitch slowly, with intention. And if you watch Stitching the High Notes with Joanna, she does this beautifully. Joanna, love you. Aspire to achieve what you are achieving. I know it's been a process and a journey, but I want to somehow just put everything on slow-mo, if I could. Make everything really slow. You guys might think that's nuts, but that's that's where I'm at the moment. So those are my 9 intentions, or make 9 intentions for the year. I'm not going to put a specific make 9 project out, because if any of you have watched me in the past, you know I flip from I'm a magpie, one idea to the next idea. Whatever glitters, whatever's pretty, all things I want to knit. So it's not like I'm just, you know, schizophrenic about it, but I do tend to change my mind a lot. A woman's prerogative, as they say. But let's go back to number 5, which is my intentions for knitting garments. I've narrowed it down a little bit. So I have some beautiful, beautiful yarn. I have non-superwash yarns, I have superwash yarns, I have everything from tonals to naturally dyed. I have all different weights. So what I have narrowed it down to, and if I'm looking over here, it's because I've got some notes, so I'm trying to remember that I don't go off the beaten track. But I want to knit a sweater or garment from Andrea Mari, not a shawl, an actual sweater. And there's so many beautiful patterns that I've saved or already purchased that I would actually like to knit. Her aesthetic is exactly what I'm going for. I'm not as tiny as she is from a physical standpoint, but I love that short cropped sweater. I'll put a picture here with, you know, just the gathered skirt or dress underneath. And then the boots, the socks, you know, and just it's almost, to me, it's a coordinated casual with just, you know, that little bit of artistic sophistication. I don't know how else to put it, but I'll put a picture up here. She's coming out with a new sweater pattern that looks really simple, hits all my buttons. Will it be that one? I don't know, but certainly, I mean, she's got the beach cardi, she's got the morning ritual sweater, which I love. I love that one. Quite a few different patterns that interest me. My second designer that I would like to knit from, and I've not knit from these designers, Thea Coleman. I would like to do a cabled something. I love her entire cocktail named sweaters, from chocolate stout to Tanqueray to, she's got all the, you know, if you've ever followed Thea Coleman in Baby Cocktail Knits, I think it's called. She's always mixing drinks, and the most exotic drinks, but a lot of her collection is named after different drinks. And so she's got some beautiful cabled patterns, and I want to make either I'm pretty sure cabled cardigan, but I might go with a cabled pullover. It depends. I don't know. Haven't nailed it down yet. The third designer I want to knit from is Noragon. Now, I've talked about her in the past. Actually, two years ago when I was here, I wanted to knit the Pompero cardigan. Well, my taste has kind of changed since then. See, there you go. My taste actually changed on that one. But she, again, is the queen of cables. And I would really love to knit one of her more intricate designs. So that is something I want to knit. Isabel Kramer, love everything. Just that casual sweatshirt style of hers. Again, I probably trump her by 40 or 50 pounds. But I think just that aesthetic would, you know, it's just so comfortable and cozy and just utilitarian, you know, it's something you throw over jeans, over leggings, over something. And I think I had a conversation about my my fashion style is leggings. We're gonna get out of that. Out. The next designer that I would like to knit from or design company is Petite Knits. Oh, and there's another one. Oh, Kim Hargraves. Oh, geez, now I'm getting, this is so tough. So Petite Knits, another aesthetic I really like, which is just the whole fuzzy balloon sleeve, oversized V-neck, something. Petite Knits got sweater 11, sweater 9, 7, 6, they're all numbered. Love pretty much everything, and they have some chunky options, which might be nice, because I haven't knit anything in a chunky. Kim Hargraves, wow, love everything she does. I discovered Kim Hargraves because of the Fleece and Harmony podcast. If you haven't checked them out, please do. They're wonderful. It's now just Kim. Jennifer has sort of carved herself off and gone into her own business, but Kim is still very much knitting up a storm. And the whole Kim Hargraves line, classy, super classy, and I would say much more fine and fragile knits, very lace, a lot of lace weight, so I have to give that one some thought, but I do love what she knits. I'm not putting her on my garment list for 2022. I think that might just be a little bit too much. So those are the sort of the designers I want to knit from to create garments, along with I want to knit a skirt. So it's either going to be the West Village skirt from Selma of Little Big Knits, or it's going to be something a little bit more fun and flirtatious like the Lane Splitter skirt, which is a free pattern. And I got the Lane Splitter skirt idea from the 3-Ply podcast, Angie. So thank you, Angie. I want to knit a Felix cardigan. I know that's on the docket. Why do I want to knit a Felix cardigan? I think it's going to be my first cardigan because it is my first cardigan. And I think the Felix will be simple enough with just that detail. It will be cropped. I think it's just the perfect starter cardigan. So that would not be a steeked one. That's just a regular cardigan knitting back and forth. And I think I might be able to manage that. The other thing that I know I want to actually knit is I want to do another turtle dove from Espace Tricot. You know, my first one didn't work out so well because of the yarn, and so I've got beautiful yarn. I'm going to try it again. Again, sweatshirty, really comfortable, staple in a wardrobe, I think. And so, gosh darn it, I want to knit one. So that's it. So those are sort of my aspirational knitting goals, along with my 24 pairs of socks. So thank you for bearing with me through that. I kind of figure if I verbalize it and put it out on video, then I gotta kind of do it, or at least give it a half-ass try. So there you go. You're my sort of, you're holding me accountable to a certain extent. Okay, so let's get right on now to, how far are we in? Oh my God, 35 minutes in. Let's go into finished objects. All right, so my very first finished object, yay! I'm going to show you this first, is my Cozy Knitter socks. So this was my Cozy Knitter Advent from 2021, and I finished my socks. The toes heels and cuffs are done in Polka Dot Creek's, just their sock yarn, can't remember the base, sock yarn from Polka Dot Creek in their natural undyed. And then this is the cozy. Now I started with the wrong end. These are toe up socks, and I started, she recommended you pull from starting from the red, and I pulled the wrong end, so there you go. I started with the mocha. And all my beautiful stripes, it is just, I start with, I think it's Judy's Magic Cast On for toes, Magic Loop Cast On for toes, and I do 14 stitches and then increase to 32 on each needle. I do the magic loop, and what I do is I do a toe, and then I do the second toe separately, and then I put both toes on a needle, and then I do both socks at the same time, magic loop. And then I just did a 3x1 rib. Then, I did the shadow wrap short row heel. I used Denise's from Earth Tone Girls methodology. And if you remember, the first time I did it according to her instructions, I did it on one Halloween sock, and the heel wasn't deep enough. Then I did my reindeer socks, and I increased the number of stitches before you start the heel by 8 stitches. One, it was too deep. That was too much. It's almost like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. The first one was too small. The second was too big. And also, I did all the increases in the reindeer sock just as I was adding on this yarn. So I ended up getting this really big mushroomy looking heel. This time, I started increasing. I only did 6 stitches increase instead of 8. I think I went to 6. I did 6. Did I do 6? I did 6. And so I think I started 6 or 8 rows in advance, and I just increased 2 stitches every 2 rows until I had just on the back side, just on the underfoot side. And then I did the shadow wrap heel all the way, and then when I went around the next round, I decreased the stitches. So I didn't, so my sock is much more, it's got a little bit of a width increase here, but overall it is much more proportioned than my previous heel, and it fits like a dream. So totally chaffed about that. My rib is a 1x1 rib, and I used Jenny's Super Stretchy Bind Off. So these socks fit like a glove. I even created, this is what you do when you're on vacation, you take your travel tensor socks, you stuff them full of other socks, and you create a sock blocker, sock mannequin. So this is my sock. Doesn't fit the heel perfectly. This heel fits me perfectly, but this is what they look like. They're just gorgeous. I absolutely love them. So that is my finished object, and that means I have now 2 pairs of socks towards my 24 sock goal. Because I don't know if you remember, do I have it with me? I do, I have it. Because the others, and I keep calling them the wrong name. These socks were I finished them last time. This is not a finished object for this time. Remember these socks? These beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Advent socks from Kay Jones? They're called Christmas in the Woods. I keep calling them Into the Woods. No, they're Christmas in the Woods, based on the Laura Ingalls books, A Little House on the Prairie. But that was my finished sock. So now I have 2 pairs of socks out of my 24. I only have 22 left to go. Look at me. Wow, pretty impressed. Not only that, I am entering those socks into the Ravelry finished object thread for knits and pieces. So Kelly and Noelle have a Ravelry group for their sock along in 2022. They're trying to get 2022 socks knit. So ladies, this is my second contribution. There you go. So I will post those when I finish this video. Okay, on to whips. So, okay, what can I show you first? So this is my, So Shannon bag. I love this one, my patchwork bag. This was my Christmas Eve cast on. Remember I showed it to you last time. This is my Habitation throw blanket. Look at you're not gonna see me, but okay, here, look at my Habitation throw blanket. Can you see it? I don't know, it's getting pretty big now. Hang on. I don't know if you can see the whole thing. Anyway, it's absolutely lovely. And I am now, so what can I tell you about this? This has been a wonderful, wonderful TV knitting project. Super easy to follow. Fuzz. So this is the Habitation throw by Helen Stewart, Curious Handmade. Everybody's made this blanket. I'm late to the party. I am using a combination of my Valentine's Day mixed bouquet mini skein set from Sweet Skein of Mine that I got last Valentine's, so February, Marchish. And those, they are all of the Stellina based ones. So how do I show this? All the Stellina, every second stripe is a Stellina based stripe. So we've got this one, this one, this one. How can I show it to you so you can actually see it? Oh, it's not going to show. Anyway, what I've done is I've alternated between that advent. Well, it wasn't an advent. It was just a mini skein set. And sorry for the interruption. Got a call from a realtor to see another place. So. Okay, so where was I? I was talking about, my Habitation throw. So half of the stripes, every alternating stripe is a mini skein stripe from Sweet Skein of Mine, and has a little bit of Stellina, and they're very romantic colors, hence why I wanted to keep the pink theme going. And the alternating stripes are just random minis that I've pulled out of all the minis that I have, to sort of just make this pinky purple happy lap blanket. Now this last stripe that I'm on, so the last time that I saw you, hope you can see this, the last time that I saw you, did I take it off? I was down here in this, where this little stitch marker is. There's a little stitch marker right here. So the last time I saw you, I was here. I've knit all this. Strangely enough, the reason this stitch marker is actually here is because I dropped a stitch. So this is a loose stitch with no home that I'm gonna have to sew in on the background. I'm so glad I caught it because it was right at the eyelet section. That could have been a real pain in the tush to try and fix. But now I'm here, and you'll notice that this color is twice as many stripes, or twice as deep, I guess, as the rest, because this is the halfway mark. I have turned the corner. So now I'm on, I hope you can see that, now I'm on the decrease section. And so now my blanket is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and I'm curious to know when I get home and I block it, what it's going to block out to be. Right now it's about 40 inches. It's going to be a 40-inch square. When I block it, it might be a 43-inch square, I think, which is just cozy to sit on your lap when it's just a bit chilled around your legs. So I'm also hoping that maybe if I flip it in half, you know, if it's going to be 80 inches across, if I flip it in half, I can wear it as a shawl, you know, because hey, I think it would be a really nice sort of fun way to keep warm. So that is my Habitation throw. A couple other things. So now that I'm on the decrease, I can't mirror the colors. The reason I can't now start going backwards and then use this one, then this one, and all the way down is because there's not enough yarn in the minis left. The wider the part of the blanket, of course, as I got larger and larger took more yarn. So I don't have enough of this color now to do another full stripe here. So what I have to do is I have to take the yarn from the smallest section and start, that will now be the next yarn that I use. So my next yarn is going to be the Black Cat custom yarn, which also has stellina, because I wanted to keep with that alternating stellina, non-stellina. So this is the yarn that I have the most of because it's what I started the blanket with. So I used the least amount of yarn. Then I will use this one and then go up and systematically so that when I get to the end of the blanket, this is the final corner of the blanket because it's the one I have the least amount of yarn on. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, a super fun knit, super easy. I would strongly recommend this for therapeutic knitting, TV knitting. It's just, and trust me, the weather's been that cold that I could have used a blanket. This is just gonna be lovely, lovely. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So that is a work in progress. The next work in progress, which I'm actually not going to cover, is my From Montreal to Paris mystery knit along, which is a collaboration between Les Garçons and La Bien-Aimée. And the reason I'm not going to cover it off, two reasons. One, I have just finished clue 1. Okay, this is the last week. They've already released the last clue, which was clue 4, and I have just finished clue 1. That's one reason. Two, I'm going to do a separate video because I still think there's lots to say about this project that might be of interest, and so I'm going to keep talking about this particular project on a separate 15-minute video. So I will take it from there. About my From Montreal to Paris, so I just wanted to say that I will be covering that off in a separate video. Okay, last whip, and we're getting close to the end now. Last whip is in my Bags by Diane Peacock bag. I love this thing, it's so large. This is a new cast on. This is a complete whimsical cast on. And the reason, thank you so much for the comments about my last ranunculus, hint, hint. And it's just been, the weather's just been so much cooler. I thought, you know what, I'm gonna knit another ranunculus, but a little warmer one, more for Vancouver. And so, this is where I am. I have just started the patterning of my ranunculus number 2. And I hope you can see this. It's just lovely. I hope you can see the actual stitches. Now, I'm knitting this somewhat by the seat of my pants. Why? I don't have the right needle size. My needle size that I'm using, the biggest ones I brought were 4mm, which is a US 6. I'm pretty sure it requires a 5 or 6mm. So like an 8, a US 8. So my needle size is way too small. So I thought, okay, how can I counteract that? Well, I'll use a much chunkier yarn and I'll try and knit really loose. I'll knit really loose. Yeah, that'll work, Linda. No. So the yarn that I am using is Katia Peru. Katia. So we get Katia in Canada and the United States as well, but in Spain they have a lot more options because it's a Spanish yarn. And this is 40% wool, 40% acrylic, and 20% alpaca. I don't know if you can see the halo-y, I gotta check it, yeah, you can see the alpaca fuzz, which makes it a lot of fun. It does shed a little bit, but I have already ripped it out once. So I got almost to the point where I was going to split for the arms and realized I was making some very fatal errors in Sweaterland. So I knew my needles were too small and I thought, well, I should probably just increase 10 or 15 stitches and just keep going, and that should counterbalance. I know nothing about sweater math, can you tell? And I thought that would work, except for when you do that without doing any math,
what you're doing is you're exponentially increasing the size of your sweater. When you get to the increase rows, this pattern has increases every stitch. So you get to a certain point and then one of the pattern pieces says increase every stitch. Well, if you increase every stitch and you've got 15 extra stitches, well then, not only did you start with 15 extra stitches, then you have 15 extra stitches in that, and then you knit a little bit and then do another increase row. Well, now your 30 stitches increase, now you've got to increase another 30 stitches. Oh my gosh, I was supposed to have 180 stitches and I had 280 stitches. And like this thing, I was eating up all my yarn. It was like just huge. Ripped it all back, started again, and now I'm trying to just keep the overall pattern, you know, somewhere between 10 and 20 stitches larger than actually required for the pattern, and never getting to 100 stitches more than you need, only 15 stitches more than I need, and I think that should work. It seems to be working second time around, but loving it. It's a fun knit. When it's weather like this, all I want to do is throw my jeans on, a t-shirt underneath, and put that on. It's not, I mean, this is a commercially dyed yarn, and it's part acrylic, which is not my favorite. I find it kind of tough to work with on my hands, but this will be a super functional working sweater. And I'm doing long sleeves, and I don't know what I'm doing with the ribbing yet. Stay tuned for that, but I have some ideas. But this is going to be one of those sweatshirty kind of work in the garden sweaters. So that was my surprise cast on. There you go. Don't forget, I brought with me my Stephen West Speckle and Pop Shawl and Patrick sweater. And come February, Patrick sweater is going to take priority. So we'll see how far I get on all of these things. So those were my works in progress and next on the needles type of idea. Let me just share with you 2 acquisitions that I made, and then we'll sign off for the day or for the session. Okay, so 2 different merino yarns that I bought, and this, I don't know if I mentioned last time, but I think I might have said that the really nice yarn store here had closed, and it's called VK Designs. She didn't close, she just moved locations. She moved to a much better part of town, into Old Town. So I cannot wait to go visit. It's been a little challenging with the golfing because they always close from 2 until 5, or sometimes, 2 until 5. But we're having dinner and then they close at 8. Just trying to get there has been a little bit difficult, but that's VK Designs, and she has indie dyed yarn. She has her own, and not all, just her own yarn, all vegan dyed yarn. She's a vegan shop. Everything is vegan product, or vegan, depending on how you pronounce it. And her yarn is all naturally dyed, and she has several bases, but she only does small batches. So when you go, it depends on what's available. So I can't wait to take you to that shop. Other than that, the only other place you can buy yarn is in little haberdasheries. And there's like 6 little haberdasheries. In Canada, we would call them almost like a mini mart or a 7-Eleven or something like that, except they don't sell food. They sell all notions, everything from fishing tackle. So it's like a mini hardware store. Fishing tackle to yarn to fabric. It's a haberdashery. They've got everything except for food. And so I bought 2. I hope you can see this. This is a beautiful wine colored 100% merino, Cacha baby merino. And I also bought this, which is, it's called Oso Blanco. And Oso Blanco means white bear yarn. So white bear yarn in their Patria, no, it's their Partida colorway, which is this beautiful aqua color. And this is just a numbered, it's color 62. There you go, baby merino. They're both 100% merino. They're both sport weight, theoretically. This is much more, to me, a fine fingering, and this is a sport weight. This one's just fluffier somehow. Anyway, so they're not to go together, but I figured if I wanted to knit a hat, maybe, I might do a very thin love note or something, I'm not too sure. Or I might just keep them, I haven't decided.
but I wanted to support the local, the little shops that are here. So did that. These yarns, ridiculous. For example, the big blue Kacha yarn is $7 a skein Canadian. So it was about €4. These were €5.50 each, if I'm not mistaken. One might have been €6, but otherwise they were €5.50, $8, $9 a skein. Like super affordable. 100% merino. Yes, commercially dyed, but great value for a great knit. So I got nothing bad to say about that. So those are my little acquisitions, and again, trying to film. Our weather hasn't been good in between, trying to time it between looking for houses or looking for condos and golfing and eating out a lot. Trying to film some of the places has been a little difficult, but I promise I will get to filming that. Not this episode, obviously. I'll share with you what I have. But on that note, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. We're done. I hope the new year is treating you and your family really well so far. Thank you so much for tuning in. Give the view a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Certainly subscribe if you haven't done so already, just so that you're made aware of when there's going to be another episode. But other than that, thank you again. I've enjoyed spending this time with you, and I look forward to talking to you in a couple weeks. Take care.